The boy couldn't have been more than 10 years old. His voice was soft, almost hesitant, yet there was something about the way he asked the question that made the whole room go silent. "Mr. Musk, do you believe in Jesus?" The question hung in the air like a gentle breeze before a storm. Elon Musk, standing at the edge of the stage, slowly turned toward the boy. The room, filled with tech entrepreneurs, journalists, and even a few celebrities, held its breath. Among them, quietly seated near the front, was Mel Gibson, eyes narrowing, arms crossed as if something sacred had just been touched. Elon didn't answer right away. He walked to the edge of the platform, crouched down to the boy's level, and met his gaze, not as a billionaire or innovator, but as a man, a father. "What made you ask me that?" Elon asked, his voice lower, more personal now. The boy shrugged, nervously. "My mom says Jesus teaches us to love people who hurt us, but my dad left and I don't know how to do that, so I wanted to ask someone smart." A few in the crowd chuckled softly, but Elon didn't. His face remained still, troubled even. Mel Gibson leaned forward. Elon sat down on the edge of the stage. "I think that's the most important question anyone's ever asked me," he said, "and I think the answer might not be what people expect." The boy tilted his head, waiting. "There are a lot of powerful stories in history," Elon began. "Stories that shaped civilizations, launched revolutions, built cities, and destroyed them. But there's one story that didn't come from power or wealth or control. It came from surrender, from silence, from a man who walked miles on dusty roads, never owned land, never ran a company, and yet, somehow, the world can't forget him." People in the room shifted in their seats. The energy had changed. Something deeper had begun, something real. Jesus, Elon said quietly, wasn't trying to impress kings. He was trying to reach children. He wasn't looking to conquer. He was looking to serve. And that has always made me wonder. He paused and then added, "Do we even know what strength really is?" The boy blinked, caught between awe and confusion. Mel Gibson's jaw clenched, his eyes glassing over. "You asked if I believe in Jesus," Elon continued. "But maybe the better question is, do I understand him?" And then, almost to himself, he whispered, "Do any of us?" Silence again. Then Elon looked at the boy and asked, "What do you think made him forgive the very people who nailed him to a cross?" The boy didn't answer. No one did. And that's when the story really began. The auditorium remained frozen in silence. Elon's question, simple, profound, was still echoing, not just through the hall, but into the hearts of everyone listening. What do you think made him forgive the very people who nailed him to a cross? Mel Gibson, known for portraying brutality and redemption in The Passion of the Christ, now looked as if he were watching something unfold he hadn't expected. Not from Elon Musk, not like this. The boy fidgeted with the cuff of his sleeve. "I don't know," he finally whispered. "Maybe because he was stronger than hate?" Elon looked at him, and for the first time that night he smiled. But it was the kind of smile you wear when your heart aches. "Stronger than hate," he repeated. "That's powerful. You know, I used to think strength was rockets, speed, steel, code, the ability to move the world. But lately, I've been questioning that." He stood slowly, walked across the stage, then paused, looking up as if trying to recall something buried. "There was a time," he said, "when I was angry at everything, at systems, at people, even at life itself. I thought suffering was a flaw in design, that pain meant failure. But I missed something." He turned back to the audience. "I missed the fact that Jesus chose suffering, not as weakness, but as message." A few people in the audience looked at one another. Elon Musk, arguably the face of technology, logic, and the future, was not explaining away faith. He was leaning into it, gently, carefully, honestly. "I don't follow a religion," he clarified, "but I study stories, I study people, and I've found that when you strip away the politics, the divisions, and the centuries of interpretation, what you're left with in Jesus' life is a man who responded to cruelty with compassion, who chose forgiveness when he had every reason to condemn." He turned back to the boy. "Your dad left. That hurts more than most people will ever understand. And I won't pretend I know how to fix that. But what your mom said, that Jesus teaches love even when it's not returned, that's not naive. That's not soft. That's courage on a level we rarely talk about." Mel Gibson's hand was now covering his mouth, his eyes red. The boy looked like he was trying not to cry, unsure if he was supposed to. "Let me ask you something else," Elon said gently. "What if the people who hurt us are the ones who need our prayers the most?" That one question cracked something open. One woman near the back wiped her tears. A journalist closed his notepad. Cameras kept rolling, but the moment had shifted from an interview to something almost sacred. "Most people," Elon added, "only love those who love them. But Jesus?" He said, "Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you." That's not easy. That's revolutionary. He paused, looked around, and then said it. And maybe that's why Mel's crying. Mel Gibson didn't move. His hands stayed clasped tightly over his mouth as his eyes blinked away the tears. You could tell this wasn't just emotion. It was memory. It was something raw inside him being unearthed. Elon glanced at him, then slowly looked back at the boy. "You see, when I was younger," he said, "I thought the universe worked like a machine, inputs, outputs, logic, numbers. But when I became a father, everything changed." His voice cracked just slightly. The crowd leaned in. "I remember one night, one of my sons was crying, not because he was hurt, but because he felt alone. And I didn't have the right words. I just held him. And in that moment, something hit me. All the science in the world couldn't give me what that moment gave me." He paused. "Compassion," he said. "That's what I felt. Deep, aching compassion. And that's when I realized something. Maybe the greatest force in the universe isn't gravity. Maybe it's mercy." Mel finally lowered his hands and whispered, barely audible, "That's what I learned when I made The Passion. It wasn't just a film. It broke me. It rebuilt me." Elon nodded slowly. "I saw it," he said, "and I didn't understand why it affected me the way it did. But now I do." He walked back to the boy. "You said you don't know how to love someone who hurt you. I don't blame you. It feels impossible. But maybe it's not about having the strength to do it. Maybe it's about admitting you don't and asking for help." The boy looked up. "From who?" Elon glanced upward. "I don't have all the answers. But the man you asked me about, Jesus, he never said, 'Figure it all out yourself.' He said, 'Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest.' Maybe that's what faith really is. Not pretending to be okay, but admitting you're not." A woman in the audience began to sob quietly. Mel stood now, slowly, like he was carrying something heavy on his shoulders. "People forget," he said, voice hoarse. "Jesus didn't just teach love. He lived it while people tore him apart." Elon turned to him. "How did you manage to tell that story?" Mel's eyes filled again. "Because I needed to hear it myself. I was lost, angry, and his story gave me a map home." Elon placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Sometimes we think people like me or Mel or anyone famous have it all together. But the truth is, we're all searching for peace. And maybe peace doesn't come from building things. Maybe it comes from letting go." Then he asked the crowd a question, one that stopped everyone cold. "If Jesus forgave while bleeding, why do we wait until we're healed?" The boy stared at Elon, his lips parted but silent, as if trying to find a place inside himself to hold that last question. "If Jesus forgave while bleeding, why do we wait until we're healed?" It was as if time paused. No one moved, not even the cameras. Elon's voice softened. "You know, I've launched rockets, landed them, built machines that learn. But I still can't explain what happens when a human soul decides to forgive. That's not technology. That's something else. Something sacred." He stood back up slowly and faced the audience. "There's a strange irony," he said. "We've advanced farther in science than any generation in history, but we still haven't figured out how to sit with someone in pain. We build faster cars and smarter phones, but we don't know how to heal a broken heart." Mel took a seat again, but his eyes stayed locked on Elon. It was clear. This wasn't the man people knew from headlines and interviews. This was something else, a man coming undone, or maybe finally becoming whole. Elon glanced toward the boy again. "When I was little," he said, "I asked my grandfather why people suffer. He told me, because love gives us a choice. And sometimes people choose wrong, but love never stops offering. I didn't understand it then. Now I think I do." The boy hesitated. "Do you think Jesus still loves people who don't believe in him?" Elon didn't flinch. "I think Jesus showed love to people who rejected him, doubted him, and even killed him. So, yeah. I think that kind of love doesn't stop just because we don't see it." The boy looked down at his shoes, and for a moment he seemed smaller than ever. But when he looked up again, his eyes held a flicker of peace. "I want to be like that," he said. "But what if I can't?" Elon's answer came without hesitation. "Then you're already on your way. Because the people who change the world for the better aren't the ones who think they're perfect. They're the ones who know they're not, and still try anyway." The crowd was dead silent. Elon looked around again and asked, "Why are we so afraid to talk about forgiveness? Why does surrender sound like weakness when it might be the greatest strength of all?" It wasn't just a rhetorical question, it was a challenge. "Jesus," he continued, "didn't raise an army, he didn't build an empire, but he forgave, and somehow that act still echoes through centuries. What does that say about power?" He paused. "Maybe the most powerful person in the room is the one willing to say, 'I forgive you,' even when they have every reason not to." The boy blinked fast, but this time the tears came, and so did Mel's. Mel Gibson wiped his eyes openly now. He wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't performing. It was real, raw, and undeniable. The audience could see it, feel it, and somehow, seeing him cry gave everyone else permission to breathe deeper. Elon took a breath too, as if the weight of the moment was pressing on his chest. He looked at the boy again. "You know what's strange?" Elon asked softly. "We talk so much about progress, about the future, about what's next, but we avoid the oldest questions. Why are we here? What do we do with our pain? What does love really mean?" He folded his hands. "I think Jesus knew that humans are brilliant and broken, capable of incredible good and terrifying harm, and yet he still chose to love." The boy spoke up, more confident this time. "But why did he let them kill him? Couldn't he have stopped it?" Elon nodded. "Yes, but he didn't. And that's what makes the story so haunting and so beautiful. He had the power to stop it, but he didn't use that power to save himself. He used his last breath to forgive." Mel whispered, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Elon closed his eyes for a second. "Those words changed me," he said quietly. "Not instantly, not like lightning, but slowly, like sunlight thawing something frozen in me." He stood and faced the audience again. "When I hear people mock Jesus or religion or faith, I get it, I really do. People have done terrible things in the name of belief, but I think we've confused the followers with the teacher." A few nods rippled through the crowd. "I'm not here to preach," Elon continued. "I just want to say this. When I read his words, really read them, I don't see control. I see a man who cared about the one society ignored, the sick, the poor, the ashamed, the people no one else would touch." He looked down. "I've built systems, technologies, dreams, but I've never built anything that could heal a soul. Jesus did that without tools, without platforms, without wealth, just words, just love." He turned to the boy again. "You asked me if I believe in Jesus. I believe that his example is something the world desperately needs. Whether you call it faith or not, the kind of love he showed, the kind that doesn't give up on people, that's rare." The boy's voice was small but certain. "I want to love like that." Mel closed his eyes. "So do I." Elon stepped down from the stage, slowly walked toward the boy, and knelt before him. "Then let's start together," he said. "Not by being perfect, but by choosing mercy, again and again, even when it's hard." The boy reached out and took Elon's hand, and in that moment, something deeper than fame, money, or genius passed between them. Something holy. Elon Musk stood with the boy's hand in his, looking not like a CEO, not like a genius inventor, but simply like a man who remembered something eternal. The boy leaned into him, and the audience didn't clap. They didn't move. They just watched, transformed. Mel Gibson rose to his feet again, this time walking slowly toward them. His voice shook as he spoke. "When I made The Passion, I thought I was telling a story, but it was telling mine. I was angry, addicted, self-destructive. And that story, his story, It brought me to my knees, not because it was religious, but because it was real. He paused, looking first at Elon, then at the boy. There's a reason his words have outlived kingdoms. It's not because they were loud, it's because they were love. The boy asked quietly, "But what do I do when I feel like giving up?" Mel knelt beside him now. "You remember that even Jesus fell under the weight of his cross, but he got back up, and he kept going." Elon added, "And when you can't get up, let someone carry you. That's why we're here. Not to win, but to walk each other home." A subtle rustle filled the room. Sniffles, tears, hearts opening. The cameras were still recording, but what was being captured now wasn't just a moment. It was a movement, a crack in the armor people wear every day. Elon turned back to the crowd. "I didn't come here to give a speech," he said. "I came here because I've been questioning everything, and what I keep finding, again and again, is this. The greatest story ever told wasn't written by a screenwriter. It wasn't published by a tech company. It wasn't sold. It was lived." He looked over at Mel, who nodded. "It was lived by a man who walked dusty roads without title, fame, or wealth. He taught with parables, healed with touch, forgave with blood, and conquered, not with weapons, but with words like 'Father, forgive them.'" The boy whispered, "Is that what love really is?" Elon turned to him, eyes wet. "Yes, not the feeling, the choice, over and over, to forgive, to see, to stay." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small object, a coin, old and worn. He handed it to the boy. "My mother gave this to me when I was young. It's inscribed with a verse, 'Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God.' I think she knew I'd need that reminder one day. Maybe now it's yours." The boy clutched the coin tightly, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you." Mel placed a hand on the boy's other shoulder. "Thank him." The three stood there, Elon, Mel, and the boy, held together not by belief systems or labels, but by something simpler, something sacred. The room, the world, had changed. And as the lights dimmed, the last words Elon spoke echoed like a whisper across eternity. "Maybe real power is just love that refuses to quit."